All right, sorry about the delay there. I just wanted to share my screen. So I've done a few entries now on exercise versus recreation, and I'm going to do some entries on these other parts. So I'm just going to go over this very quickly and then break it down in parts in future entries. So we've talked about exercise versus recreation. So this is where the mix-up, as I mentioned, of sports and other recreational activities versus activities that are primarily for conditioning and get mixed up, and it causes a lot of confusion, causes a lot of injuries, and causes a lot of wasted time and effort. So I'm going to start at the beginning. So definition of exercise. So I'll go through that in detail, but just point out the word definition. Why define? Why define anything? Because if you don't define something, see, if nothing is defined, that means it's infinite. Infinite versus definite. So defining something gives us a beginning and an end. And so otherwise, if you don't have a definition, then anybody can say that anything is exercise. Walking is exercise, playing cards is exercise, anything that involves any kind of movement, and that's wrong. Ideal environment has to do with working out in a place that has a controlled temperature, that has no distractions or interruptions, and that is going to keep you focused on the work at hand. Indifferent transfer has to do with skill acquisition and the idea of between skill acquisition and no skill acquisition. So a lot of times people these days are doing exercise that mimics a sport movement. And this goes directly against skill transfer science. So skill transfer science says that if you want to practice a skill, you have to practice it as close to identical as you possibly can get, if not identical. Because if you're doing something that has nothing to do with a skill, it won't have any transfer or indifferent or neutral transfer, which is what conditioning should have. But if you do something that's close but not quite, it'll actually have negative transfer and work against you. Inroad theory, the idea of inroad theory very quickly is the idea that you're going to work your muscles beyond a certain threshold of fatigue. In other words, inroading your starting level of strength in order to create a stimulus that will then cause adaptation. The 10-10 speed is just basically moving slowly, or even time static contraction. The idea is to create continuous tension on the muscle in order to ensure that the inroad that is here is done so efficiently and that you're not allowing the muscles to recover in between. The definition of exercise I talked about already, and real objective is versus the assumed objective. Another thing that causes confusion is people go into the gym and they think that their objective is to lift so much weight so many times. And that's really the secondary objective, because the real objective is to just use the weights to fatigue the muscles, not for your muscles to lift the weights. Because your goal is, unless you're training to be a power lifter or an Olympic lifter, in which case you're participating in a sport, then your goal in the gym is to have the weights fatigue your muscles in order to make them stronger, not for you to lift more weight more times for whatever ego that would serve or whatnot. Anyways, that's a quick rundown of all these different things, and then I will touch on them. I've already had a couple on exercise versus recreation, and I'm going to start probably the next time and just giving you a definition of what a typical workout looks like, so that you can sort of get an idea of how that typical workout fits all these various parts. Bye for now.